Welcome to Tech Daily for today, Thursday, March the 22nd, 2012. This is all of your tech and social media news in 10 minutes or less. I am Jacob Bodner. Let's not waste any time. We'll get started today with the U.S. Senate passing a bill that will allow tech startups to crowdfund. This bill literally has been talked about lately. It's part of the Jobs Act. This is called the Crowdfund Act. This is in the Senate now, and this is essentially a amendment that was made to the Jobs Act that has been passed as a bill by the Senate. It passed 73 to 26 today, and it lowers barriers for investment in companies that haven't yet gone public. That means that new companies, ideally the next Google or Facebook, at least that's the idea, could be funded by small donations from the general public, either through a licensed broker or an accredited portal. The idea behind crowdfunding is essentially using the crowd, social media users, internet users, to kind of collectively come together through small donations and raise money. It's a very popular mechanism that's used in charity work, obviously in political campaigns as well. And now this is part of a lowering the barriers to make it also available for small businesses that are starting up. And so this is kind of like what we have in Kickstarter, which is an organization that is a project, at least, where a large group of contributors fund a single idea. So that was the big news today, the U.S. Senate passing the Crowdfund Act, 73 to 26. Also in big news today, T-Mobile USA CEO Philip Hum sent word to his employees that the company will be shuttering several small call centers, or 7 call centers rather, cutting a total of 3,300 jobs in the process. Affected employees will have the option of transferring to 17 remaining call centers throughout the country, where 1,400 new positions will be available. So essentially the net cut here is 1,900 jobs. The call centers affected include Allentown, Pennsylvania, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Frisco, Texas, Brownsville, Texas, Lenexa, Kansas, Thornton, Colorado, and Redmond, Oregon. And we had iPad rumors all up until the new iPad was actually announced. Why not start with some iPhone rumors? The iPhone will probably be announced in September or October. September, October is usually when we hear iPhone announcements, but that doesn't mean that we can't have some, rumors about what it will include. Today, the rumor is a 4.6-inch Retina display on the next-gen iPhone, as well as 4G LTE connectivity. This wouldn't be any surprise, to be honest. The iPhone is in desperate need of a bigger screen. We talked about a story a few weeks ago, or not a few weeks ago, maybe last week, that said the sweet spot for a phone screen is between 4 and 4.5 inches. So this would fall pretty much in line with that. It would be a tenth of an inch larger. But it would still be within that kind of range. And the Retina display is something that's already available on the iPhone, so that's not really a surprise. 4G LTE connectivity is something that is inevitable for multiple reasons. Number one, Apple's finally made the leap into LTE with the iPad, but also Verizon has publicly said they will not carry phones that are non-LTE from here on out. So that would obviously mean that the iPhone they expect will be LTE, and if not, maybe they'll make an exception. These rumors come from Korean newspaper Mail Business Newspaper. This is Reuters reporting on them. They said that Apple has decided on the bigger 4.6-inch display for the next iPhone and started placing orders to its suppliers. There are a lot of people out there that don't believe this. They think a 4-inch iPhone display would probably be more likely, if for no other reason than you wouldn't have to change the form factor and the actual size of the phone. Apple doesn't like to change device sizes. That way accessories and everything are standardized, so the case that you have for your iPhone 4 could work on your iPhone 4S. Cases that work on the iPad 2 now work on the iPad 3. There wasn't even a problem with the camera placement. So Apple likes to keep form factor generally the same, so to enable accessories to be compatible across multiple generations. So most people think a 4-inch iPhone display is what we're going to see, but what do you think? Let us know in the comment section. And also in social media news today, Path is going to have a new round of financing that will put a $250 million pre-money valuation led by Redpoint Ventures. This is Business Insider reporting that the actual funding amount will be about $20 million. Redpoint Ventures also invested in Posterius, a blogging platform which many consider to be a competition to Path. That was bought up by Twitter just last week. Path is in desperate need of money, but it's an interesting situation they're in. Their initial funding, I believe, was about $11 million. $20 million would more than double that, or would pretty much double their initial funding, and would bring up their funding to a little over $30 million, which would be a lot of money for them to have. However, we just talked about on Status Update this past Sunday about how Dave Morin, the CEO of Path, has basically come out and said, we don't have any particular plan to generate revenue. We don't really have something in place right now to do that. We don't know how we're going to implement ads. We really don't know how we're going to make money. Maybe Path knows behind closed doors how they're going to make ad revenue, but right now they don't have anything publicly out there and no mechanism to do so. So to continue to get investment is not only vital, but it's also eventually going to dry up because people aren't going to invest if you're not going to make any money. Speaking of making money, Pinterest today took a key step in transforming themselves into a social phenomenon, into an actual business. They hired Tim Kendall. Kendall is formerly of Facebook, and he figured out how to monetize the rapidly growing user base of Facebook. This is Fortune reporting on the big profile of the upstart social network, and this is a big hire there. Kendall at Facebook was at Facebook from 2006 to 2010, where he was the director of monetization. So Pinterest very clearly going after a way to monetize here. They have tried before. We talked about the Slim Links stuff where they would replace affiliate links with their own affiliate links and get money based on that. Probably didn't drive a whole lot of revenue, but it was certainly an avenue to get revenue. This is clearly a hire to try to find a way to monetize their ever-expanding user base and popularity while maintaining a coherent and solid user interface. The one thing with social networks, it's very difficult to put advertising in there that blends in with the interface that's not an interruption to the user's experience like you have on TV or radio. So that's something that they're very cognizant of and something I'm sure Tim Kendall will be working on at Pinterest. In Android news today, it looks like Google might actually be preparing to unveil Android 5.0 Jelly Bean in the third quarter of the year. That is what's being reported now, and it's insane to think of that considering the first stable release of Ice Cream Sandwich just came out on December 16th, and now we're going to be seeing possibly a Jelly Bean release in time for Google I/O, the company's annual developer conference, which is held at the end of June. So you may see it in midsummer. Android Ice Cream Sandwich is currently only available on 1 to 2% of devices, and I've been all over Motorola for still not providing me an update, and it's been 3 months now, over 3 months. While that number is expected to spike as more manufacturers finally get around to rolling out an update, Google thinks that it might be time to release Jelly Bean. This is an interesting situation. We'll elaborate on it a little more on Status Update because there is almost a real fragmentation and disconnect between what handset makers are able to push out and what Google's able to push out. And Google had Ice Cream Sandwich available 3 months ago, and still only 2% at most of Android devices are running that operating system. Not because people aren't buying ICS phones, but mainly because handset makers haven't really in any significant way released updates. Across the board, most phones that are even supposed to get an Ice Cream Sandwich update are still waiting on it. Almost every Motorola phone, HTC phone, Samsung phone are still waiting on Ice Cream Sandwich upgrades, and by the time it gets here, we may have a whole new version to push out. However, that version might not be as radically different as Ice Cream Sandwich was. ICS was a big upgrade. Jelly Bean probably won't be a huge UI interface change, so that may make a rollout a little bit easier. Nonetheless, it is still something that is fragmenting the Android community and something we will elaborate much more on Sunday on March 25th on the next episode of Status Update. That's going to do it for today's Tech Daily for Thursday, March the 22nd, 2012. Check us out on Twitter at TechDailyRTM. I am at Jacob Bodner. You can catch past shows at redtie.tv/TD. And you can catch our video shows at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/rtiemedia. Check out the next episode of Status Update coming this Sunday, March 25th at 7 p.m. We will elaborate on all of these stories and so much more. Until tomorrow, have a great evening.